All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual ahead of Lights Out XF23, which transpires in Long Beach, California on March 22nd, and very happy to be talking to the figurehead of Lights Out Extreme Fighting, NFL legend Shawne Merriman, and great having him on Bowks Talking Bouts today. How's it going there, Sean?
It's good, man. A few weeks away or just less than a month. So, as you know, in the fight business, man, things always, as you get closer to the fight, always ramp up and changes and injuries and weight cutting. Yeah, a lot goes on, man, but it's exciting.
Yeah, and very interesting things transpiring for sure. What's this situation calling out former Super Bowl champion James Harrison? What's going on there? I think it involves Chad Ochocinco. Can you kind of keep me, abreast of that? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I saw the guys over at Radio Row when they were doing Nightcap over at Shannon Sharp's show. And, they've been going back at it online for months. And so I didn't know how serious they were. I didn't, Chad plays around. Chad is the ultimate joker, man. So sometimes you can't tell if he's serious or not. So I just put it out there. I, said to James, I said, hey, why don't we fight? I don't know if you guys are serious with him and Chad. Why don't we fight? Obviously we'll do the Lights Out Extreme fighting. We'll do it on Lights Out Sports TV where everybody can tune in and watch. Part of that fight can be live and free because we're a free ad supported program, but the other half of it can be pay per view, and I'll figure it out. So in my head, obviously being in a position I am, I'm like, who wouldn't watch me and James Harrison fight? I mean, I think that'd be a great matchup.
Yeah, and curious if there's any, I guess, like level of traction being made towards that, just in the sense of you had called him out during the last broadcast, actually, at LXF22 in Long Beach there. So has there been any, I guess, traction, I guess, subsequent to that call out there?
No, no, but you know what? That's why I always stayed away from calling guys out publicly because I don't get a response. And they'll go back and forth with everybody else online, but when I do it, it's nothing. It's crickets. And so, no, typically, and I'll tell you what I have done in the past. I'll just send text messages or emails or DMs to guys if I think that they want to fight. I've sent out multiple contracts over this past year to former WWE guys. I've sent out contracts or a possibility of a contract or just offering to do it, and I don't get a response. And so I'm not the type, and I've never been the type to call anybody out on social media because I'm not with that. I love now. Don't get me wrong. I love when our fighters do it. They go back and forth because that's their business. That's what they do. But if you want a real fight, in my standpoint, because of the situation or position I'm in, I'll do it behind the scenes. And typically, this is what I get. I get crickets.
That's kind of intriguing. Are these certain WWE names you'd be comfortable mentioning that you were in maybe some discussion to fight? Because that's immediately intriguing for me.
Look, Bobby Lashley has been said to say a few things, right? Like he's come out. That's something I would really consider. I mean, obviously Bobby has experience. He's had several fights. Um, so I would be open to that one. But there's a couple other guys too, man. And to me, I just stay away from calling guys out because if they really wanted to do it, everybody knows that I'm open to fight, right? I'm not against it. So what's stopping somebody from shooting me a text or DM or reaching out on a private level and saying, "Hey, I'm down, I'm in," right? And but I never get that. It's always the opposite.
Yeah, and in doing my research on you, I was kind of seeing that was the case because on the Rich Eisen show, you were talking about how there was some discourse with Bellator about fighting in MMA, but you were never formally presented a contract. So it seems like that's kind of been like a recurring thing for you in a certain sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think at a time when I was trying to have a fight in Bellator, I was early to the game, right? Because I don't think that Scott Coker is great, man. I've known Scott for some years, and he's great to work with, and I think the world of him. But I don't think they understood the magnitude of what it would have meant if a former NFL player that people knew would actually get in there and fight, and how much that would do for organization. So I don't think they saw it then. And then 2 years later, now influencer crossovers, former athletes, now it's a big thing, right? And so I think I was just a little bit ahead of the game when that happened. I don't think it was anything personal. They just didn't come to the table like I thought they should have.
And also a thing I was curious about, I mean, it obviously seemed tied to the fact that the promotion folded, and it seemed like there was some impropriety happening there, to say the least. But I understand you were offered, or there was some discourse about a bare knuckle boxing opportunity, and I
Yeah,
believe like a multi-fight deal. Can you offer some insights into that? Because that also sounds quite intriguing.
yeah. I mean, a month before I was actually about to fight, I started getting wind that it was a scam. What they were running was a scam. And so I started to kind of poke around, and I had my team start reaching out and making guarantees to put money somewhere to the side, at least 50% of what I was supposed to fight for. And then 3 weeks before the fight, they asked me to take a 50% pay cut, and I told them to go to hell. And so that whole thing. But then I didn't fight still, and a lot of fighters did. And they never got paid. There were guys. I think there were some notable guys that fought in that card that never got paid. And so I don't think it was my job to tell people not to fight. It's not, I don't want to make a decision for them. But when there's smoke, there's fire, and I saw it early on, and I decided not to fight. And glad I didn't, because we sued that guy, and he ended up going to jail.
Yeah, I guess just even attaching, you know, certain ideas I had to that. I guess I'm just finding it kind of curious that there was not any, I guess, even follow-up conversation with some of the other, reputable leagues that are entrenched out there, like BYB, Bare Knuckle Boxing,
Yeah,
BKFC. Like, did they ever reach out to you at all, or not so much?
yeah. I talked to Dave Feldman around that time, and so man, I like Dave. I like Dave a lot. I think what he's done with BKFC has really been groundbreaking in this space, because you got to think at one point in time they can only fight in places like Wyoming, right? Like they can only fight in weird places. And now they're fighting in California, which, to pull that off, to have bare knuckle fighting in California, you got to really knock down some doors, because I know how the commission works, and Andy Foster and those guys over there about fighter safety and how they operate. So for them to pull that off in California, he's been working his ass off. But to me now, the only way I would fight or do anything is in Lights Out Xtreme Fight. It only makes sense. And it only makes sense to do it on my network, which is Lights Out Sports TV. And again, I'm still open to it. It's just that I'm not going to waste my time and sitting around calling guys out if I'm just going to get the same answer. Because to be honest, I have I have more enjoyment promoting these other upcoming fighters and kind of being up behind the scenes and building, what we're building. We're the Lights Out Extreme Fighting is the most distributed and watched regional promotion in the world. I mean, we have more distribution than everybody. And I was fortunate because I came from TV, right? NFL Network and Fox Sports and ABC, ESPN. I've worked at I was at the launch of WWE Network, right? So I've been in TV and broadcasting for a long time. So the first thing I wanted to do is make sure that Lights Out Extreme Fighting was the most visible regional promotion in the world, and we are now.
Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned the upcoming Long Beach card for March 22nd, which obviously very exciting, but it just seems like there's so many tendrils to what's going on with the lights out, broadcasting experience. Because I saw the big announcement for April 12th in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans throwing down. And I understand Rampage was one of your favorite fighters per an article that I was checking out and doing my research. So that all sounds incredibly exciting. Can you kind of offer up some thoughts on that? Just how, I guess, this fight, got on that platform and just, yeah, the behind the scenes lead in and all?
Yeah, it was a partnership really with the Influencer Crossover Series, right? And I've known Rampage for a long time, and we used to train a lot down at in Long Beach at Antonio McKee's spot down there, at Body Shop. So we've trained together. We've been, so I've obviously always been a fan from him for a distance. And then Rashad, he's one of the most notable names in combat sports history. He's just, you got two guys clashing in a boxing match, and the biggest thing is that people are not talking enough about this undercard. You got Vargas Jr. on there, Tavern Jr. You have Tapia. You have, God, man, Le'Veon Bell's on this card. Salt Poppy. Like you actually have some big notable names also on this card that people are not even really. I don't think just get enough eyeballs. Like obviously, the names with Rampage and Rashad fighting is massive. But if you really look at this undercard and the guys that are, the following and just their history, this is a big, big fight. So we'll have part of this fight live for free on Lights Out Sports TV, and then they'll flip to the pay-per-view model as you get closer to the main card. And so this is our first time doing it, and there's going to be plenty of fights with this influencer crossover series. I think they're planning on having several this year alone.
That seems like something you're looking forward to expanding more into, and just even like what we've been talking about through this chat, it seems like you have quite the healthy appreciation for several combat sports. So yeah, I love to hear that. That sounds exciting.
Man, I've been around. My uncles were professional boxers, man. So I just been around, just combat sports practically my whole life. Truthfully, if I didn't play football, that's what I would have been doing long, long, long time ago. When I first started training with Randy Couture back in the mid 2000s and working with Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, and I was around when like Tyron Woodley was first coming on in mid 2000s in the gym training with him. So I've been fortunate to have been around this business and this sport for a long time. And it also kind of mixing playing in the NFL, which is the biggest platform in this country, possibly in the world. And so, combining the two and having the opportunity to understand the businesses of both has really, really allowed us to catapult everything we're doing with Lights Out Extreme Fighting and Lights Out Sports TV.
Yeah, it's just so cool to see how things have kind of taken shape because I understand like a big seed was planted circa, I guess, 2005 when you were checking out a Randy Couture versus Chuck Liddell UFC event, like at least in terms of the localized interest in MMA. So, so cool that you went on to have that like training rapport with Randy and everything like that too.
Yeah, man. When you get the introduction like that in the business, like I remember working out for the Chargers my off season because I had an off season bonus. I had to hit a certain percentage of workouts for the Chargers. So after I got done working out with the Chargers, I would drive up to LA and I would go train, with Randy when his gym was on off La Brea in LA. And Jay Glazer is the one who introduced me to Randy. And then at that point, I found myself being around more the MMA guys than I was the football guys during the off seasons, right? So you started to meet the managers, you started to meet the coaches in the gyms, you started to understand the business. So when I launched Lights Out Extreme Fighting, it was only natural that I was going to be in this sport regardless whether I was fighting or not. It was something that was just bound to happen.
Yeah, it's just yeah, such a great thing to, see take shape and everything like that. And like you said, you've done such incredible thing with Lights Out Extreme Fighting over the last several years. Like what are some of the big, I guess, growing pains that you've noticed, or I guess maybe the lessons learned throughout the multiple years that you've, had this league? Like what are some of the bigger lessons that you've kind of taken out of this whole journey with the promotion?
I think there's a lot of BS in this space as far as like who's doing well and who's not. I'm not even trying to throw names out there, but uh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's a lot of BS in this space about who's doing well, who's doing not. Um, I'm not, we never want to be the UFC, right? We never want to be in a position. We look at ourselves, man, as like more of an incubator. We're sending guys there. We're trying new technology. Do we got this? We made a partnership with Shot Tracker where we put in the chips in the gloves where you can measure speed, power punch, G force, velocity of a punch, and we're gonna have that live, right? Like we're looking to be our own. We're not trying to be co-leaders of the space and no, we want to send as many guys there as possible. And if we do that, that's successful to us, right? That's successful to what we're doing. Um, and I got big announcements, man. We got a lot bigger fighters that's coming over for that reason. They know that if you come over to Lights Out Extreme Fight, you're going to get seen. And that's just the simple fact. I think we sent 6 or 7 guys to the UFC last year. And we're hoping to send more. And if we can continue to do that, it just ups our brand and ups our promotion and what we're doing with our organization. And we got some announcements coming, man. Bigger name fighters that we're gonna sign here over the next like 30 to 60 days. I think it's going to really turn people heads in the industry, let them know what we're doing over at Lights Out Extreme Fighting.
I mean, yeah, you talked about the, Rampage and Rashad connectivity. They're big names, and like you said, a stacked undercard. So it seems like there's that balance from top to bottom. I presume some of these big announcements are maybe still in the works, like maybe nothing you can necessarily mention here at this juncture, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I wish. I wish. I don't want to before we ink the contracts, man, before we put pen to paper, I don't want to drop the bomb just yet. But uh, I'll say this, man. We're looking to be one of the most competitive promotions out there, and we want the best fighting against the best. I think that's one thing that why the UFC have always separated themselves. Like when you see a fight in the UFC, you know it's the best against the best. There's no layups ever, and we want to create that same kind of atmosphere where guys are really coming in there. And if you come out on top at Lights Out Extreme Fighting, then you're gonna be badass. You're gonna be looked at as one of the top in the sport.
Yeah, and speaking of top athletes in the sport right now, I'm kind of curious to, just get your thoughts on the heavyweight hierarchy and everything like that, because like there's so many comparisons even to heavyweight fighters that have been kind of attached to you over the years. Like I liked seeing that article talking about how you're like the Alistair Overeem of the NFL, and some people kind of compared you in that kind of context. But just curious to get your thoughts on the heavyweight landscape, because it's kind of interesting in the sense of there's like fighters from, I mean, I guess a couple different promotions at this juncture that you could almost give the distinction to of being the best heavyweight right now. Like we've got, Francis Ngannou, John Jones, Tom Aspinall. I guess just, your perspective as a fight fan, like who do you think is the current best heavyweight in MMA today?
Look, I'm never going to say not John Jones. I don't see it. But we can always talk next up, and I think that him and Tom, this is going to be a pass the torch fight, right? It's going to be a pass the torch because he's the pinnacle, and I don't think anybody can deny that he's going to be on top until someone proves that he's not on top. And um, but I would love to see Tom and Derek Lewis. I mean, I still like the Black Beast, man. He's one of leading up to the fight, man. There's nobody more entertaining, I think, than him. He's just a funny dude, and then his knockout power. I think he still holds the records for the most knockouts in UFC history at the heavyweight. So, um, but I think there needs to be more heavyweights. If I was, if I really, I think if Dana had access and Hunter and those guys had access to some of the guys kind of transitioning from the NFL, I think they would get more heavyweights. I think that they actively went after some of the former guys in the NFL. This not now I'm not talking about the ones that played 10, 15 years, but some of the guys at 3, 4 years got a lot left in the tank, still got the energy and the mindset to go and train. That they can pull some heavyweights over from the NFL. That's what I would do.
I mean, just considering the confluence of where you're at with like so much knowledge and just what you've done in combat sports and just being such an acclaimed NFL legend, I would think that you would have that perfect confluence to scout those kind of fighters even for your league. Like, how much is that something that is kind of part of these bigger announcements that you're talking about going forward? Like, I would think you would have a very keen eye to scout that exact kind of talent that could do really well at heavyweight.
No doubt. That's the whole thing, right? So that's what part of one of the announcements we're making of having more notable fighters come over that's experienced, they got bigger followings also. And I think that's ultimately going to lead to, some of these former NFL guys or that went to the NFL, maybe the USFL, right? Some of the guys in USFL, they're saying, hey, they want to take up this sport. And it's bound to happen. Like we just talked about the influencer crossover series. These guys that are influencers and different, come from different walks of life now fighting. It's going to happen with these former football players, and because you know why your heavyweights are a football player from Alabama that played at Florida State, that played at Texas. Those are your next heavyweights. Those are your next line of heavyweights coming in the sport. And I think the money is worth it now. I couldn't say that 5, 7, 8 years ago, but I think the money is worth it now where some of these guys would seriously consider it.
Is there someone in the NFL right now, and this is obviously purely hypothetical, but is there someone in the NFL right now, like a big name, high profile player that you think could come over into combat sports, whether it is MMA or influencer boxing, that you think could make a meaningful splash right now? Again, purely hypothetical, just could be anyone essentially.
You would have to. So it's so hard to name a guy. Like you would think somebody like Aaron Donald would do extremely well, right? He retired, but You're not going to get a Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's the first ballot Hall of Famer. He's made a ton of money. You want an Aaron Donald athletic ability and mindset that only played 3 or 4 years, that maybe didn't get their shot. They're on a practice squad and they're bouncing around from team to team. And these guys now just ready to whoop some ass. Like that. That's the guys that you want. But physicality, you want an Aaron Donald. You want somebody who's built like Khalil Mack, a Nick Bosa, a Miles Garrett. My God, if somebody's built like Miles Garrett with hip athleticism and explosion, if he said, you know what, I'm done playing football, I want to go fight somebody, they will be unstoppable if they train right. If they got with the right camp, the right coaches, they will be unstoppable. So those are the guys that you're really technically looking for.
Yeah, just you're such an interesting time. And I guess even briefly kind of going back to the John Jones topic, because you were mentioning that Aspinall fight and it having that kind of I guess like potential to be like a passing of the torch moment almost, or even for Jones to kind of reassert his status once again. Like, do you ultimately think we get the Jones versus Aspinall fight this calendar year?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That to me is the only fight to make. And I know that John Jones is not technically too high on it because of how Tom has went about it, right? Calling him out, saying certain things or whatever. But the truth is, Tom would never have an opportunity to fight him if he wasn't calling him out the way he was. It wouldn't be so intriguing to the public if Tom didn't do what he did. And I know that John don't like that, but if you're Tom, you got to swing for the fences. You got to say, do whatever you can to stir up enough to put you in that position. Because his talent, he has a lot of talent, but you have to create enough buzz and stir to even get an opportunity at John Jones. And then if John Jones beat him, which, I think that since we haven't really seen John Jones lose, he should, then he go get his money fight against Alex Pereira, right? And then he called it quits. He can at that point, if he takes the Tom fight, I think that Dana would be open to saying, "Hey, look, now it's time to go make your money. Give him the fight against Alex Pereira, and then he can ride off to the sunset with a boatload of money." That's how I would see that situation going.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like we'll get that fight this calendar year. I'm kind of like a perpetual optimist about things, though. But I mean, I do, for some reason, see it happening this year. Like, it just seems like something that they would, want to compensate him for commensurately. He was talking about that FU money, trying to keep it clean for the YouTube drop. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that would be a fight that, he would be well, I guess, in his position to like ask for something like that. So yeah, exciting times in that sense.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And then we don't. It's all of us. It's Kobe Bryant. Anybody like LeBron James. I don't think we appreciate our superstars and like their body of work enough until it's like too late. I truthfully don't believe we'll see another LeBron James. Somebody played 20 plus years at that level since high school. I don't think we'll see another John Jones and his path and his streak. Right? How many times he defended this title? How many people he put down in their prime? Like, not he didn't like face older guys. Like he walked through hell to get to where he's at. It's not like he ever dodged anybody. And so I think that we don't appreciate a lot of these guys. And I'm talking from a former athlete, man, because I know how hard it is to maintain that level, to be on top. Everybody's taking aim at you. And that's what it's been for John the last decade and a half.
I guess just speaking to your own journey in your own athletic endeavors, like, did you feel like you got your flowers during your competitive career, or maybe more so after the fact, as you're kind of outlining here with talking about other athletes in the context you presented it in?
To me, man, I didn't really. I just want to hit people in the mouth, man. I didn't really, what I'm saying. For me, as long as I played the game as hard as I did, no one can ever turn on any film at any point in time, at any point in my career during the game, and see me half-assing it, see me dogging it. You never see me jog to the football, not give maximum effort. You can't even find one play in all those, all 8 years. You can't find one, and so that's all I cared about. The praise and the accolades and stuff. It's great. People appreciate the way you play. But honestly, man, I was out there for 60 minutes to hunt. And that's all I really cared about, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear where you're coming from and everything like that. I guess talking about the fight coming up in, you know, California, March 22nd, great card, and the bantamweight champion being back, that's always exciting to see. Like, what else can we look forward to? What's going on that card? Like, what can the fans expect at Thunder Studios when the cage door locks and everything goes down on March 22nd there in Long Beach?
Yeah, first and foremost, man, Arnold Jimenez. We just talked about, some of these guys have an opportunity to go to the UFC, right? I think he can be a few fights away to get that opportunity. And he's our champ for a reason. And, he has Ramos coming now from Nick and Nate Diaz camp from up north. Luciano Ramos, he's, a vet in the business. Um, we got Ashley Steiner, right? Turned Muay Thai world champion. She has more accolades than like a decorated Army vet, dude. Like, she has just a long list of accolades coming from her amateur career to her Muay Thai career, world champion, and so many different levels. That's going to be a big fight against Taylor there. You got Devin Simmons also coming up from San Diego. He's another one we're trying to build. Steven Sansbury is on this card as well. So we're pretty stacked backed up. But tell you the truth, man, even our amateurs that we have fighting here, they can turn pro tomorrow, right? All these guys can turn pro tomorrow. Like we very seldom have amateurs on our card that are just starting out or have never fought before. Like most of our amateurs can turn pro any second. And so what I wanted to do, and I fought for this for a long time when we were at other networks, is that have our amateurs on TV too. We wanted our amateurs to have TV time because we wanted them to feel like, okay, well, if we get on TV and be shown here, why wouldn't we turn pro with Lights Out Extreme Fighting too, right? So that was the whole goal with that, and we did that. A lot of our amateurs are shown on multiple streaming services long after it's live on Lights Out Sport V. So we got March 22nd coming up. We got May 10th coming up. We have June 14th in San Diego coming up. So we got 3 or 4 dates at a time here now. But we do have some really big announcements of several, if not 15 plus fighters that we're signing that people know very well.
Yeah, and it's just so cool, like the history that Glory Kickboxing has even had with Lights Out Sports and this big heavyweight tournament that they've been doing steady
Yeah.
announcements for. So just again illustrates the point of how exciting of a time it is for combat sports and what you're doing in your endeavors to like really, I guess, like benefit the scene and just give all these different combat sports the spotlight and all.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing. We got, Swerve Combat on there. Swerve Combat has tons of live fights. Glory Kickboxing being one of them. But I think we got LFA on there. We have several other leagues on sport on Swerve Combat. Fight TV is on there as well. They got a ton of boxing. And again, man, if I always make my hand combat sports, I can turn that on and watch that all day between that and football, and then I'm the happiest person walking on this earth if I just had those two. So, but we got a lot of free live sports on Lights Out Sports TV, and then we just announced our tailgate show for 20 different markets this year, for the NFL games. So a lot of cool stuff coming out of Lights Out Sports TV.
Yeah, it seems like it, man. And just like one of the last things I wanted to touch on while I have you, because it seems like you have a certain affinity for pro wrestling as well, at least through the lens of I saw you made your TNA debut and I guess your overall pro wrestling debut close to a year or so ago. And they seem like they have a pretty close business relationship with WWE nowadays. And I've seen in some past interviews you wouldn't necessarily rule out WWE or any kind of foray like that into pro wrestling. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole dynamic with TNA and WWE? And could we see Shawne Merriman in the ring? I mean, the Netflix era, it seems like a lot of stuff is going on that maybe you would want to be a part of
Hmm.
potentially.
Yeah, anything's possible. I mean, definitely. We've had several conversations, and we still do. Like TNA Wrestling's there on Lights Out Sports TV, and they've been great to work with those guys over there at Anthem, and I got Carlos and everybody over there at TNA Wrestling. And it was great, man, to work with AJ Francis, who played football at the University of Maryland, for that pay-per-view we did with TNA, several months ago. And I'm not ruling it out, man. I wouldn't rule out this year if I got in a few times with pro wrestling, either at TNA or WWE. But right now, man, I'm really just focusing on building these guys. We want to make Lights Out Extreme Fighting a household name in this business, and we're well on our way. But we got some stuff we need to work on as far as we want to have more fights. That's one of the biggest things. I would love to get to 14, 16 fights in 2025, and then 26 get to 18 to 20 and see and go up. And I think that if we're able to be on a more consistent basis and what people can watch is would also help, our notoriety getting out there.
Yeah, well, it seems like you've made great strides so far, and just it seems like the schedule is getting more and more filled out. So, yeah, just love to hear that, man, and been following Lights Out Extreme Fighting for definitely a bit now. So, yeah, stoked for March 22nd to see the next offering in Long Beach, California, and just, yeah, so much cool stuff to talk about. But I do want to be mindful of your schedule. I'm sure I could ask you a ton more questions, Sean, but being mindful of what you're getting up to, is there any final parting thought you might want to add as we're kind of wrapping up here, man?
No, that's it, man. If you guys in SoCal, March 22nd, you do not want to miss this one. It's going to be a massive one. We're going to make more announcements. I'm hoping to have some of these contracts done with the new roster of fighters we have coming over by the fight time of March 22nd, where we can announce it there at the fight. But make sure you download Lights Out Sports TV. We're on every smart TV device you got, iOS, Android. Got a ton of live combat sports there, a lot of sports. But you do not want to miss this one in Long Beach, March 22nd. 22nd. We got a banger.
Yeah, really excited for the card and just yeah, thanks so much for coming on Bowks Talking Bouts today to offer up some great insights on not just what's going on with Lights Out, but the combat sports world in general, man. Would love to have you on in the future, but until then, you have a good rest of your day, man, and thank you so much for the time.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me on.